So we're now going to move on to one of the other significant issues within Best Start, which is about implementing neonatal transitional care. And we're very fortunate to welcome two areas here from NHS Lothian and NHS Lanarkshire. So we have Lynn and Anne from Lothian and Rosemary and Jane from Lanarkshire, who are going to show us two different approaches. So I think Lothian are going to go first, are they? Anybody here? Yes? Thank you. Thanks very much.
Good morning, everybody. So Jane and I have been asked to describe implementing neonatal transitional care, and so we're both going to describe the models that we've used to do that, and we'll then follow that by a short video. I have to remember to turn the pages and click at the same time. So what are the drivers behind implementing neonatal transitional care? Well, the Best Start recommends that well preterm babies should be kept with their mothers, and this is nothing new. We've been doing this for some time, and a lot of units have been already have purpose-built units for this purpose. But the Best Start makes this a service standard for all families, and so all the units in the country are now looking at how we can best provide the service for our families and keep our mums and babies together. So what is transitional care? Well, most of you will probably know what it is, but there are many definitions that describe it, and in a response to the UK-wide recommendations of the implementation of family-centred care, the British Association of Perinatal Medicine have devised a framework for transitional care, and that describes the service itself, how it can be delivered, how it might be staffed, but it also defines transitional care, and this is the working definition that we've used in Lothian, which is that neonatal transitional care is care in addition to normal infant care, provided in a postnatal clinical environment by the mother or an alternative resident carer, and supported by appropriate trained healthcare professionals. So why should we do transitional care? Well, it's really at the centre, it's integral to our family-centred care. And I think the framework captures it very well in that saying that it's not looking at why should we keep mums and babies together, but why should we keep them apart? So we've had to look at how we can provide it to our families. And there's a range of ways that this can be done, either in the postnatal wards, in a purpose-built transitional care unit, or even at home. Now, the Royal Infirmary is a large unit. Some of you may be familiar with it. We have 9,000 deliveries a year, 900 admissions to our neonatal unit, and we don't have a designated transitional care area. So we had to think about how we might be able to provide that within our existing facilities. So a pilot project was established to determine whether we could limit separation of mums and babies by caring for them together in the postnatal wards. And there are two wards at the Royal Infirmary. One's a purely postnatal, one's combined postnatal and antenatal. So at the start of the project, there was a lot of preparation to be done. Again, this was a change. There's a lot of change around, and not everybody's comfortable with it. So central to our success was communication. And I have to give credit to my colleague Anne, who was the charge nurse in the special care and high dependency unit, who really was the driver behind getting this project off the ground. She's just not terribly comfortable about public speaking, which is why I'm up here. So that started with consultation with initially with the charge midwives in the wards, getting their ideas, finding what they thought might work. They're the ones working there all the time. Discussing it with the unit staff, with the medical staff, getting everybody on board, and really sending the message out to everybody to let them know that this was happening. So we had safety briefs, we had poster displays, and really just general chat about how this was going to work. We also set our criteria for inclusion in transitional care and kept that quite restricted initially to the babies between 34 and 36 weeks who had additional care needs. That included tube feeding, it included phototherapy, temperature management, and these were the babies that we were able to care for on the wards. And obviously mum still had to be resident within the hospital. At implementation, the babies were selected during the pilot project by Anne, and that was agreed by the consultant. And obviously the mums had to also be willing to take part in this. This wasn't something we were making them do, but obviously they were all very willing to take part. The parents, the care of the baby and the support of the mum was undertaken by the neonatal unit staff, and that was either a staff nurse or a nursery nurse. And they were allocated the care of those babies. The mum's clinical care remained with the midwives in the wards. In the neonatal unit at the Royal Infirmary, we don't have midwives working in our neonatal units, so the care of the mums remained with the postnatal midwives. Safety was paramount, and the clinical review of the baby, the clinical care of the baby remained under the neonatal unit. So on a daily basis, they remained part of the neonatal ward round, and they were reviewed by the medical staff. We also had a mechanism to ensure that out of hours that nobody forgot that those babies were there and that they were part of our caseload, and so we ensured that they were not forgotten. We also, the documentation has proved to be a bit of an issue because we use two different systems. We use BadgerNet for our baby documentation, and we use Maternity Track for maternal documentation. So that has and remains a bit of a stumbling block for us, but we had to use the systems that we had available to us. We've also said about putting together guidelines so that everybody was clear about roles and responsibilities, because that was one of the things that caused people the greatest anxiety. So inevitably there were challenges and concerns before this all got off the ground. You'll see them on the board there, but a perceived increase in workload. What if the neonatal unit is too busy to release the nurses to attend? The wards are too cold for the babies, they're going to be bed blocking, there won't be space for them. Who's going to deal with an emergency situation if it arises? We've got these different IT systems, how's it all going to work? What's my duty and responsibility within all of this? All quite realistic concerns. But we went ahead regardless. And in 8 months, we had 17 babies identified who were able to take part. Now, that may seem quite a small number of babies, but that's 17 babies that otherwise wouldn't have been with their mums. We found that it didn't have a significant impact on postnatal capacity. And of the 17, only 2 babies were readmitted to the unit, and that was actually at the mum's request because she had other children and had to go home and care for them. So it wasn't that the baby's care couldn't be managed in the ward. Feedback from parents was all positive. You can imagine there was no concerns from them at all. They thought it was an excellent idea. They felt that they were a partner in their baby's care. It helped them to establish breastfeeding. They felt supported to look after their babies on the ward. They were supported to do tube feeding, and of course they were happy that they could be with their baby. Feedback from the neonatal unit was positive and negative, but we wouldn't expect it to be anything other than that. People thought it was a fantastic idea, great to avoid unnecessary separation of mum and baby, improved team working, but concerns that it was very difficult when the unit was busy. Sometimes the staff may have the caseload in the unit as well as in the wards, and because there were 2 wards, they may have a baby to care for in the unit and 1 in each ward, and they found that dividing the time between the 2 areas could be challenging. It was difficult when the unit was busy to be away from the department because that obviously impacted on their colleagues back at base. And it was, as I've already identified, difficult for some of the mums with other children at home. Feedback from the postnatal wards, again, that was mixed. Similar themes, positive feedback, mum feeling involved in baby's care, helping with breastfeeding. However, some concerns still remain, uncertainty about the roles and responsibilities, the IT issues, still some concerns about small babies being in the wards. But these are all things that we're looking to work on and improve. So what's next? So we're hoping to incorporate this into our normal daily practice, that this will be available to all mums and babies, not just those that were included in the pilot. So we would like to widen our inclusion criteria and offer this to more mums and babies. We feel that in order to do this well and safely, we need to recruit staff who are dedicated. Well, all our staff are dedicated, but dedicated to the cause, so that we are, that's their only remit, is looking after the mums and babies who are in the wards. looking at staff training, and because obviously there's been some issues that have arisen, staff concerns around equipment, etc. So we're looking at that. And we're also looking at the other recommendations in the Best Start, facilitating earlier discharge, which also helps with transitional care. We've got, we're very fortunate in the Royal Infirmary. We've already got a very well-established community team who follow up our babies at home, and we've already sent babies as small as 1,600 grams home to be cared for by their families. So we're also working on the other Best Start recommendations, and that's providing the 7-day service for community. So that's another challenge. And also looking at the babies that are readmitted from home, because obviously we also have babies who are readmitted because of feeding problems or jaundice, and we don't want to separate those mums and babies either. So it's definitely still a work in progress, exciting times ahead, but most important is that we're keeping our mums and babies together. Thank you very much.
Good morning, and thanks for having us here. So I'm Jane Telfer. I'm the Senior Charge Midwife for the neonatal unit and transitional care unit at Wisha General. We are very fortunate that we have been on our transitional care journey for 9 years. So where did we all start? Our first transitional care... Where's my presentation? Keep going. Oh, sorry. Bear with me, I'm new to this. So our first transitional care ward area opened in 2010. This was a designated 4-bedded area with 2 single rooms across the corridor. This was good that it was next to our postnatal ward, and there seemed to be a better flow of babies from postnatal ward. The small babies, the 34-week gestation babies, 35 weeks feeding problems, and these babies were able to come to our transitional care ward straight from delivery. The drawbacks from this was that the main carers could only be the mums. We didn't have facilities for dads to stay, and this ward area was staffed by midwives, nurses and maternity care assistants. So the challenges and successes are there for you all to see, but because it was a new area, we needed guidance for staff around which babies could be cared for in transitional care. The drawbacks were that we were a long distance from our neonatal unit, so staff felt a wee bit unsafe and uncertain who would be there. Would they be there quick enough if something happened to a baby? And because it was a new area, the staff, because our midwives were unfamiliar with the care, the extra needs of the babies who were in this ward setting. But with every challenge, we had some successes too, and parental satisfaction is already been shown from other slides. The parents love being with their babies. It helps keeping mums and babies together. The staff enjoyed working there and learning a new role, and due to the closeness with the postnatal ward, it ensured the early recognition of potential admissions and provide a better flow to the transitional care ward. So where are we now? Following the publication of the Best Start in 2017, a new vision for transitional care was evolving. We opened a new transitional care unit in 2017, a purpose-built ward area, which was much closer to the neonatal unit. It had 4 individual rooms where families could be together, not just mums. Mums and dads could be there for as long as they needed to provide that care, guided by the staff. And this area was incorporating also a 8-bedded special care unit. So there was a combination of staff who worked here. Maternity care assistants, neonatal nurses and midwives, maternity care assistants who also rotated through from the postnatal ward to the transitional care unit to update their skills, learn new skills, and to be a support for the mums in the transitional care area. Again, we were met with some challenges. This area, we didn't seem to have the same flow from the postnatal ward and straight from the labour ward. It was used as a neonatal step-down area. The workload was underestimated, so we needed extra staff to cover that. And because we had the special care unit next to the transitional care ward and the staff were rotating through, some of the neonatal trained staff felt they were becoming de-skilled, even though they were only in the ward for a short time. Successes, again, we have improved accommodation for the families. We don't only have room for mums and dads, we have a pantry where parents can make their own food, make cups of tea and feel like as if they were at home. There's been improved opportunities for maternity care assistants to learn new skills, and every maternity care assistant who has come has loved it and has loved learning the new role, and they don't want to go back to the postnatal ward. So we want to keep them. Their skills have been excellent. And there's been better parental involvement and ensuring that the needs of the families are at the centre of everything that we do, as set out in the Best Act. That's what we're here for. So where are we going next? We hope to develop a 7-day community liaison service. We've got a very robust service in NHS Lanarkshire. We cover 5 days in the clinical setting, but we're hoping to do that in a 7-day setting, and that can be using all members of the team, from incorporating our nurses who have vast knowledge and experience, and to the MCAs who are rotating through that ward area. We hope to have a better uptake of the home nasogastric tube feeding. This will help to facilitate our earlier discharges, making the flow better, creating rooms that then we can keep the flow going better and keep them out of the neonatal unit. We hope to have an improved discharge plan and community liaison, and we've just appointed a new outreach nurse, so she's going to work alongside the staff there to work and collaboratively with the postnatal area to give support to the babies who, under the transitional care BAPM guidelines, who are currently being cared for in the postnatal ward, to provide the staff in that postnatal ward with support to make sure that these babies are not slipping through the net, to make sure that they're all getting proper reviews by medical team from the neonatal unit, and to support the mums and families here too. We also need to look at using technology to facilitate a 7-day service. Because we're developing a 7-day service, this doesn't mean that we need to be out in the community for 7 days. We can use new technology like FaceTime, Skype, to keep in touch with our families and make sure that there's someone always there at the end of a phone for them to listen to their needs and requirements. The challenges that we face are the same in this new environment. We don't want it to be used as a step down from neonatal. We want to bring babies straight from the delivery room, the 34-weekers, the 35-weekers who need that extra care. We need to ensure that staff training needs are met because we're rolling out a new service. We want to be able to provide that 7-day service without having any additional funding. And one of the challenges is how we're going to capture the data and make sure that we can facilitate change through this data. Parental satisfaction, again, has been shown. We have a feedback tree in our transitional care ward, and parents leave comments, positive and negative, and we try and adapt and change the way we work to facilitate the needs and expectations of the parents. We've also now embedded weekly discharge planning meetings. These happen every Tuesday, where the consultant on call for special care that week meets with the team to look at potential discharges, facilitate them quicker, make sure that everything's in place before they're discharged home and the parents feel supported and ready to go home. And because we have that new post, we're going to roll that out, and hopefully that will improve the service that we are able to provide at NHS Lanarkshire. Thank you for listening. How do I do that? Here's a short video.
Transitional care is important because it keeps families together.
It's where parents can actually provide that care as long as they have been educated, supported.
I could help with nappy changes and she could catch up with a wee bit of sleep.
I didn't have fears for going home because they had made me completely ready for going home.
Being able to pick her up, hold her and bond like as a mum should be able to do.
But the core principle is you want to keep mothers and babies and fathers together as much as possible.
I got Group B strep and I was very, very ill, and Grace was very, very ill as well.
Daniela really kind of needed me, and she felt that I could support her a lot, and the provision of a room in the hospital where I could stay as a dad was fantastic.
We're here because in the transitional unit because Maisie's been quite sick. The last phase she's been born, she had an infection. She's been in here for 5 days now. The staff have been absolutely brilliant. They're coming in, checking on me, checking on her, obviously, like we went through all the last week just to make sure that we're she's well and I'm well. Having my sister be able to stay well, if it wasn't for her, then I wouldn't have managed. Connie's been a big part of this week.
They've allowed me to stay, so I'm here 24 hours a day. Everything's here for you. They make sure that you're okay. And
she's obviously been changing her, bathing her. It's took a bit of pressure off me and the nurses because she's able to help. Well, my whole family's been allowed to come up to visit, and it's made a big difference because they've been able to come up and bond with Maisie if she's been born, and my son's been able to come up, sit in the bed and play with sister, give kisses and bonds because I can't get home to him. He's able to come to me, so we're allowed to, now we can spend good quality time as a family.
In transitional care, they're staying with their baby 24/7, so they're doing everything for their baby, but we are just outside the door, so if they're struggling in any way, they can come to us and ask our advice.
Co-located, they're together, we're avoiding separation, but these babies have additional care needs.
for instance, if the babies require tube feeding, then we would make sure the parents are trained to administer the tube feeds appropriately and correctly. If they maybe have a stoma or nasal stents or something, which we've had babies with, where parents need to have that time to become familiar with that kind of care. So the parents actually take on that, and between both of them, they're actually providing all of the care for the baby. But we are still here to be in there to support, to help and to guide them.
We know that the more time the families spend with their preterm baby, their baby that's requiring medical input, the better the bonding, the better the neurodevelopmental outcome. You're more likely to be able to keep breastfeeding going. Separation is bad for mothers and babies, or should be avoided if at all possible.
The last few days we were left a wee bit more ourselves, and
Yeah.
we could get used to caring for the baby ourselves before we had to go home with the baby, so that was good.
Well, when I first moved to transitional care, I didn't have very much neonatal experience, so I've learned so much in the 9 years I've worked in transitional care from every different part of the multidisciplinary team. So every day I'm learning, and it was lovely to be able to keep, parents together with their babies.
I think they're supported to leave the hospital because they've had that period of time in transitional care where they have been the main carers, and gradually through their stay in transitional care the staff back off a bit more and allow the parents to take on more of the care, so they know exactly what they're doing, they know what appointments they need, they know what needs to be done at home, and our community liaison service, if it's required, would be in while they're in transitional care and special care because they're based in the unit with us. They'll be in meeting the families and actually sorting out visits and what would need to be done at home so that they know who's coming out to see them, when they're coming out, and all these different things are all in place before they get home. If the parents can do it in here for a few days and they're totally competent, there's no reason why they can't do it in their own home.
Okay, thanks very much for that. We have time for a few questions. Okay, so you happy to take questions? Okay, so I shall stand down and like to...
So Mike, yeah. So first question here from Slido is, what is the average length of stay for postnatal mums and babies in transitional care?
So the stay varies. It depends on what the baby is there for and what support the family need. So we have had mums who come for maybe just 1 or 2 nights, but we've also had parents who can stay for up to 2 weeks. It's totally dependent on the needs of the family and what their baby requires.
I think our experience was very similar. I think 10 days was, I'm looking to Anne here, but I think 10 days was the maximum that anybody stayed. So it's really very similar. It just depends on what their needs are and other commitments at home.
Next question is, have you got any data regarding the number of mums and babies kept together or admissions avoided?
Unfortunately, I don't have any data about how many admissions have been avoided, but I'm sure that currently occupancy is about 70% occupancy within transitional care, but I don't know how many of those babies would have gone to the neonatal unit if transitional care hadn't been there.
Yeah, I think we've realised that as well, that clearly we were quite selective about who we were able to put to the wards in the initial stages of the pilot, but we do need some background information as to how many babies might this actually be available too, should we widen it, and would that have a bigger impact on the wards? Should we open it up to everybody? So it's important information.
And how is the education of midwives and neonatal staff being structured to keep late preterm babies and term babies with additional care needs with their families?
I think at the moment, because we've stuck with the neonatal staff looking after the babies, we've not had to do any additional training particularly. However, there is we have identified that there's anxiety around the staff in the ward around the equipment that's maybe being used there that they're not familiar with. So that's, as I think I mentioned, going to be part of the next step of our project. There was great anxiety among the ward staff that we were going to ask them to be doing things like tube feeding, etc., when they're already very busy, and I know some areas have done that, but I think at the moment we're sticking to our plan that it's the neonatal staff that care for the babies.
When the first mode of transitional care was opened at Wisha, we teamed up midwives from the postnatal wards alongside the nurses who've got 30 years, 40 years experience of working in neonatal units. So we buddied them up so that they could learn from each other. The nurses were able to pass their skills to the midwives and vice versa. That has worked, and we also have rotated midwives through the neonatal unit in NHS Lanarkshire so that they could update basic skills, tube feeding, monitoring babies, basic care. So that has helped them as they move to transitional care.
Okay, just one last question. Can you describe further how midwives care for the women and babies in transitional care?
So the midwives who work in transitional care have already had that period because we have a core staff in their transitional care. They've learned over the period of 9 years what mums and babies needs. They already know what mums needs, but it's for babies, because they had that time working in the neonatal unit, learning basic skills and working alongside nurses who've had all that experience, they have developed those skills over a period of time.